thought it would be a good idea for me to do a video on common mistakes in crochet. And these videos are going to be specifically for my beginner crocheters. And this will be 4 parts because it's a lot of information that I do want to share with you guys. And this is information, this is basic information about crochet. And this is also helpful tips and tricks that I've also learned along my way of these 3 years I've been crocheting. So yeah, this is part 1. Let's get into it. Now, if your crochet still looks a little wonky, it's probably one of these 4 things that I'm about to mention. Let's just start from starting your project. To start a project, you have to make chains. Depending on those chains and depending on your tension can affect your first row. So if your sorry guys, if your tension is tight and you're making your chains tight, when you start your first row, it's going to be very difficult to do your first row because it's going to be difficult for you to insert your hook into those chains to form that first row. So my tip for that is when you do your chain row and you have these tight tension issues, use a bigger hook. Go up 1 size. So say like if your pattern calls for a 5mm hook, use a 5.5 or a 6mm hook depending on your tension. Oh God, I need some water. Depending on your tension, so that it's easier for your hook to go into your chains to start once you start and form your first row. Also, let me add this. So once you're done, after you upped your hook and you did your chains, you remember to switch back to your original hook that you're going to do for that pattern for your second row. Okay. Another thing is working into the wrong loop. Okay. So a couple of weeks ago, I showed you guys front post and back post, and you see the difference between going into both of the loops of your stitch as opposed to going through the front loop and the back loop. Something about doing front post, back post crochet, it just gives a textured look and it elevates the whole aesthetic of the crochet project that you're doing, as opposed to just doing a regular stitch under both of the loops so that you would have just a flat surface. That's just a special designer tip that I shared with you guys and that I absolutely love because like I said, it just elevates the aesthetics of what you're making, especially if you're making wearables. Another thing that I know that my beginner crocheters struggle with is the turning chain and not realizing which stitch that you go in to start your next row. Depending on what your pattern says, when it says the turning chain, say like if your pattern calls for chain 2 turn, you know that chain 2 is an extra stitch to your next row. So you're going to automatically skip those 2 chains that you made and you're going to go into that first stitch after those 2 chains. That's how you're going to make your edges of your project to be straight. And it's very important for you to specifically know that part because if you're putting your stitches in those turning chains, you're either going to have your project turn out wider than you want or smaller than you want. So that's very, very important. And that's one of the first things that you must master. Last thing I want to talk about for this part 1 is, and it's one thing that I know will be tedious and annoying to do, but beginners need to do this. Is once you're done with a row, count your stitches going back and make sure that you have the correct count, because if you do that row, you keep on going and you keep on going, you're going to realize that your project is coming out a mess. Again, it's going to have wonky edges. It's either going to go flaring out, it's either going to flare in, or it's just going to look like this zigzag on the side. And you don't want that because now that's going to make you spend 2 extra hours frogging what you just did when all you had to do was take a quick 30 seconds to count each stitch to make sure that you're on the right stitch count. Also, if you're not sure about anything that I'm speaking about in this video, I did make a beginner crochet 101 video, an updated one yesterday. So you can go to my playlist, crochet 101 playlist, look at the beginner stitch video, and you'll see exactly everything that I list in this video right here is a visual example and me performing and showing you guys everything that I'm talking about in this video. So all of my beginner crochet baddies, save this video and look for part 2, 3, and 4 in the next coming days because it's so much information that I want to share with you guys that I've already shared, but it's lost. So if you're just now joining our community, I'm going to do another one. So just stay tuned, okay? Save this, make sure you save this video, review it before you start your next project. Or if you're currently working on a project, put these tips to that project so that the more that you practice these tips, the more easily it'll just come to your mind, you'll just automatically do.